last day of the United Soccer Coaches Convention. This was long due, and we're getting into the whole backstory and everything, how we met. And some of you guys I know that are around from the full-time podcast days, you guys will definitely remember this guest, because I feel like back in the day, all of us on Twitter were intertwined somehow. But joining me is the host, the creator, co-creator of LADS, Loud Americans Discussing Soccer. Kevin, how are you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. This is definitely a long time coming, and I feel like for years, like in the early days, like at the Wild West of podcasting, we were all in it together. Pros talking soccer, free kick, two left talk. Fuck, I'm messing that up. Anyway,
2 Foot Talk.
Yes,
Yeah.
2 Foot Talk. There was a bunch of us all like going on each other's shows. It was like a big community, and not that it's been lost. We've kind of just gone and done our own thing.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, it's been long due. I think you had me and my old co-host Tyler on your show a long time ago. I'm still a Manchester United fan. Tyler is a Tottenham fan, so I think we talk EPL, because that's what you guys primarily talk about, right?
Yeah, so we mostly do Premier League. We'll do Champions League. You know, I mean, if there's drama, like this whole Greg and Gio situation, we'll do some U.S. men's national team drama. Are you Team Greg? Are you Team Gio? And we'll also do like World Cup coverage, stuff like that. It feels like this is mean, but really we don't cover like MLS. That's like the one thing. But we do have like, if it's like playoffs or championship, I've been more invested with the Union recently since I moved back to Philly, and they're doing so well. I am being such a bandwagoner, and I tried to be like, oh, Union fan from day one right here. And like totally, I'm such a scumbag for that. But
We'll take all the people that want to hop on board the train, because there's not enough Union fans. So yeah, come on board. We'll accept you.
Me and Jimmy, both gingers. There's a lot in common with me and this staff, and you know, just seeing how they've progressed, and like obviously with like the Aronson connection. I love Brendan so much, and the way that he come up and how he's just been phenomenal for Leeds and stuff like that. That's a homegrown, the Medford Messi from the Union. That's like such a great feeling. But yeah, no, that's pretty much what we talk about, like bi-weekly, and just shoot the shit about soccer and drink some beers. It's a great time.
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever I have a new guest on, I'm pretty sure I had you on when we were doing the full time, maybe not. But for new listeners, I always ask, how did the guest get into soccer? So Kevin, how did you get into soccer?
Oh, that's a great question. So I grew up not really into soccer. I rode BMX. I was kind of like a punk kid growing up, and I got into soccer when I was in high school and college playing FIFA. Like I just play FIFA with my friends. It'd be something we would do all the time, and I didn't really have a team. And then I met my grandfather. I didn't meet my grandfather. I have a grandfather. And he went to London back in the day. And the reason I had chosen Arsenal as my team was because he was trying to pick a team, and he asked a local guy in London, like, hey, I heard Manchester United is good. Like, should I be them? And this is like early 2000s, like late 90s. He knew about Beckham, obviously. Who didn't? And he's like, no, don't pick Manchester United. They're like the Cowboys. Be an Arsenal fan. And that's kind of like how I got my allegiance to them. And then in college, I played club soccer. I actually played rugby in high school and college. And that was really cool. And I still love playing rugby. That's like, it's weird because I love watching soccer. And I go play pickup games here at like Temple and around like at the University City sometimes. I'm horrible. I'm not that good at all. I just play center back and just kick the ball away. But I forget where I was going with that. No, I was just going to say that playing and living with my buddy Martin, who's my co-host on the show, we would just get loud and drunk and scream at each other. And our friends were like, oh, you should put this in front of a microphone, which is what every conversation is about when someone starts a podcast. It's like, you know, you guys should really take this somewhere. And we did. And we were one of those people back in the day. And yeah, that's kind of like where our love grew, from me and my friend just screaming at each other, watching together, drinking together.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Martin. Unfortunately, he's not here at the convention with us, but he's also a Manchester United fan. So your grandfather, I think, would be a little bit disappointed in Martin since he called him the Cowboys. So, everybody wants to be a United fan, but
he is an OG. I will give it to Martin. He did start watching. His dad was a United fan, and was able to like stream it through like weird broadcast back in the day and was able to watch like the early 2000s Manchester United, which again, like I didn't really start watching Arsenal till like the 2010s. So I kind of missed out on the glory years. I mean, I did get to see some like really awesome, beautiful football. I got to see the tail end of the Wenger era, which was a real bummer. And like, I was more pro Wenger out, and I didn't realize how much he had done, not only for world soccer in terms of like Wenger ball and diversity to the Premier League. I mean, I think he still holds the staff for most diverse 11s in the Prem, and like really worked on scouting in Africa and stuff like that. I could talk about Wenger for days. I love Arsene Wenger so much. He's like the most beautiful philosopher of the game. But yeah, you know what? You can rag on Martin. I don't care. I rag on him all the time on the show.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's funny you bring up playing FIFA, because I feel like FIFA has had such a big impact on people here in the United States. Like over in the UK and everything, like they don't need any introduction to FIFA, but like FIFA just blew up. And then you look at like Ultimate Team and everything. I'm not big into FIFA anymore, but I used to be. It's like that's taken the sport of soccer just to a level I think some people didn't even think would be imaginable. And that's all credit to what FIFA and EA were able to do, just come up with no, I wouldn't say great game anymore, but back in the early 2010s, maybe a little bit before that, yeah, I mean, great game.
Yeah, I think we're being too nice to EA.
Yeah, a little bit.
I mean, we'll do that we can actually give them credit for how they've grown the game, I think unintentionally. To them, It's like bottom line profit for them. They don't care. The way they've monetized Ultimate Team and made it into like a gambling simulator.
It really is.
And it is mainly used to prey on young kids stealing their parents' like credit cards, and also adults. I have friends who have been like, yeah, I spent $200 on not just the game. The games now are even $70, and I get it. Like gaming costs so much to make nowadays, and I'm also a big video game nerd, so I get into the whole ins and outs of like why games cost more and stuff like that. But like they're paying already $70 for a product, and now they're paying $200 to $300 for these packs of cards and stuff like that. And I'm like, what, dude? Like this is just straight up gambling, and you need to call like 1-800-GAMBLER. Yeah,
and then after that FIFA's done, all that money that you spend, you can't get those players in the next FIFA. You got to spend that $200, $300
and just keep recycling and recycling. It's like Pep Guardiola ball. You're just recycling the ball over and over again, but you're spending your money. Yeah.
Absolutely. And one of my favorite FIFAs was the 2010 World Cup version. I mean, I wish EA would come up with a game like that again, where you could pick any country in the world and everything, go through qualifying and everything, then it's World Cup time. I mean, one of the best FIFA games I've ever played and everything. And so it would be cool to look at just the United States and look at all these guys that you know are never going to play for the United States. But it's like, well, let me try to qualify with the worst players in the game and everything. I mean, I guess, shout out, like you say, don't want to give too much credit to EA because of what they made, but
they're always rated like top 3 worst companies. Like when they do like the Forbes list or whatever, like the work ad, and like they are also horrible at crunch. I could talk about how they've ruined the Star Wars IP and put out like 3 games when they owned the license for 10 years. Again, that's all nerd shit. I don't need to get into any of that. But, you know, and I just feel like they keep doing the same thing that Madden has done, where they just put out a reskin of the game. They say like, oh, we've changed these features. But if you go back to like FIFA 14 and a couple, not even that long ago, FIFA 16, there's tons of great features that they just don't include anymore, but they just know people are going to keep eating it up and buying it. But like, same with Call of Duty, same with some of these other games and whatnot. They're just like, well, people are just going to keep buying it. Like, why would we have to try harder? And just, that sucks. But again, it is cool that like my little cousin was like, oh yeah, I play, like, he doesn't watch soccer whatsoever, but he plays FIFA because him and his friends play it, and he knew like who Erling Haaland is, or he knew who Marco Reus is, or whoever it might be. I'm like, that's cool. I will say that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think another thing, I mean, I know my listeners probably don't want to hear us talk about video games, but I can remember.
My bad. That's so on me.
No, you're good. Like, I can remember just being in school, like my senior year of high school, and like I took a whole bunch of, it doesn't matter what classes I take, like I'm set and everything. So I remember like being a student aide and everything for one of my teachers, and he didn't want to grade papers and everything. So he's like, here, Todd, you grade the papers and everything. And man, I'd get done grading those papers for so long, and then I'd hop on the internet in class, build my ultimate team, see, okay, how much this player costs, come back the next day in school. Did his price go down? Did his price go up? When should I buy these players for ultimate team? I mean,
you're like a stock trader.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, ultimate team back in 2014, so addictive. And I think that's the last time that I had fun with EA. I mean, thank goodness that I never stole my parents' credit card or said, yeah, can you guys give me money so I can buy packs and everything?
Right.
Like, I think at a young age, I saw, like, this doesn't seem right. Like, why would I spend, like you said, you're paying $70, I guess back then, $60, and then you're going to pay even more money for these
Right.
packs that are only going to last a year?
Am I getting new teams? Am I getting new players? Like, oh no, you're getting temporary players. This stuff is very predatory, and I am very much against like EA's model. And not only like EA, like it's easy to gang up on and bully EA. They do great work in terms of getting the marketing of the beautiful game out there, especially in America. Like like you said earlier, other countries, they've been good for a while.
Yeah.
They've been very fine with the beautiful game. In America, I think it is a good step, but I feel like they've taken 2 steps back when it comes to these gambling simulators.
Yeah, for sure. And since this is a Philadelphia Union podcast, like, man, I'll talk to people on Twitter and all the time. We're always complaining, like, how do you have the license of Madden and then you don't have the football stadiums that are in Madden in FIFA? Like, how's that hard to put these MLS stadiums in FIFA when you already have it in Madden? People lose their mind and they're like, how isn't Philadelphia Union Stadium in here? How isn't this stadium? Or you go back in years past, like there used to be some, I think Red Bull Stadium used to be in FIFA and now they re-added it or it's out of the game. It's like, come on, EA, like, what are you doing? It said, like, I know from a union perspective, like, people are like, man, I wish EA would pay more attention to MLS and everything, but I get it. It's not the moneymaker, so they're going to pay attention to the Premier League and everything because that's what everybody's watching. But let's go back to you talking about you moved away from Philadelphia up to Boston, and now you're back here to Philadelphia. I mean, how's it been back to come home?
It's been awesome, to be honest. I came back and 2 of our teams were in championship finals. Unfortunately, we don't have to get too much into the results of those finals, but to be honest, I've missed Philly, man. Philly is such a cool city. It is so much grittier than Boston. I'm going to say it right now. I loved Boston. It was a great time. There's nothing like Philly, man. The food is so much better. The people are so much better. And the sports are so much better. The fandoms are so good. Like, yeah, they got like the Pats and the Sox and whatever. There's nothing like camaraderie here. And, and it does feel like the city has changed a bit in terms of growth, in terms of like expansion. But yeah, man, it's been great to be back in the city, and especially it's great to be back with friends and family that I've missed so much. I know Boston isn't that far, but it's still like it can be a 6-hour drive, which is like kind of a pain in the ass. So I don't know, man. I've missed Philly. I'm excited to kind of get more into the Union since I've been back. I did like watch the final. I watched all the playoff games, and I do have a few friends in the area. We went out and watched all the games together. So I don't know. I think this is a good opportunity for me to also expand.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you mentioned the final for the Philadelphia Union, and I had a lot of friends that aren't into soccer and everything, not into MLS, and they're like, man, that was a fantastic final. And yeah, I mean, it sucks
for a
Union
neutral.
Lost. Yeah, for a neutral, exactly. And I think most Union fans, like, being there myself at the stadium, Subaru Park, for the watch party, I had a lot of friends that went out to LA and everything. There was a lot of tears and everything, but I think, there was a lot of gratefulness for what we saw during the season. I mean, so many records broken, just the team blowing out other teams, like 4 or 5, sometimes 7 goals. It's like...
You were the Man City.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, this is unheard of when you look at the Union in 2010, 2011. So I think, the saying that I hear a lot of people say is, if you play good, attractive soccer, then the fans are going to get behind that. And of course, winning helps. And looking at some of the prices now for the upcoming season, I mean, I don't blame the team for like doubling the prices what they were last season, because it's like, okay, well, if the demand's there for the tickets, you got to make money, right? But just watching that final, I mean, not even just in MLS terms, but that might have been one of the best finals I've ever watched in all of soccer.
It had to be Gareth Bale. It had to be Gareth Bale to rip out the hearts of the Philadelphia Union and then just retire afterwards.
Yeah, of course.
What a dick.
Yeah, it's like, you don't want to come down to Chester in 2023. Like, of course you retire. Come
on. I do actually have some questions for you, if that's okay.
Yeah.
How is things changed? I haven't been to a Union game since I've been back, because when I got back, they were in the playoffs, which, you're welcome. You're welcome that I came back and that happened for you guys. How's like transportation out to Chester? And again, like I was born in media. I was actually born in Chester. I love Delco so much. Like, how's like transportation getting out there from like the city and stuff? Like, are they doing buses? Is it still like tough?
Yeah, my one good friend, Ed Fagan, he lives in South Philly. I don't think he'll mind me saying that. And like he complains, like, yeah, they run a couple buses and everything, but they never really post a schedule. Like, I always see Ed on Twitter retweeting SEPTA's bus schedule and everything. It's like, why isn't the
We
team...
need more people like Ed.
Yes.
Yeah. Or actually, like you said, we need the team doing this. Or,
yeah, exactly. Like, he's like, oh, why isn't the team doing this? Like, there's tons of fans in Philadelphia itself. Like, you think that they would want more people from the city coming out. You would post the bus schedule. Yeah, transportation sucks. I know a lot of people that are taking Ubers and everything from the city.
But that's like Uber, is another thing that has just run its luck, because now taxis are now cheaper than Ubers. And that was just like their whole thing, like with Airbnb and Uber. And again, I don't want to get on a weird tangent about business, but like they did the whole thing where they just want to get as many signups as possible and they were losing money. And now it's all come to fruition. What's the word? Yeah, that's a word.
Yeah, that's a word.
And I mean, how much is like an Uber? I mean, South Philly is a bit closer because you can get right on 95 and go down past the airport, but that must still be like a $40, $50 Uber there and back.
Yeah, so obviously, I live in Maryland. I'm driving up here, so I'm not using Uber and everything, but I can tell you. So back in this past summer, I got invited to play in a soccer tournament in Philadelphia, and don't want to bore people with the story and everything, but I think
no, tell me. What do they care? I want to hear it.
Yeah, okay, fine. So I hadn't played soccer in like 6 years or something because I had too many concussions. My doctor told me not to play because of CTE with football. So I was like, fine, whatever. I go out getting concussion headband. I'm like, I'll be good. Never headed a ball. Was scared when a ball came towards my head. I'm like, okay, this is a little bit intimidating. And I'm like, I've been working out and everything. I'm like, I'm going to be good to go. There is such a difference between being in shape and soccer shape. It's man, you got to hit those quick sprints and everything. And when you're running and everything, it's like, okay, you can have a consistent pace, but in soccer, you got to make those quick darting sprints all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I am not in shape. And, that was so cool going out there playing soccer. I hadn't touched the ball in like 6 years. I'm like, my touch is horrible. It's like, once you don't touch your football, like, yeah, you might remember how to play the game and everything, but like your touch and everything, being in soccer shape, like I was like, wow, this is not going the way I want.
You got that Lukaku in Tim's meme. Kind of touch, yeah.
I'll take Lukaku's touch. I mean, I know it's terrible, but my touch, I feel like it was so bad.
I hate that Lukaku's like the first one that comes to mind. I don't mean to bag on him. Former Manchester United player too. But I don't know, man. I really, when I go out and play nowadays, I'm just trying not to get hurt. And I just can't go to my job and be like, oh, yeah, broke my finger goalkeeping today because I went to the Sunday league and no one wanted to play keeper that day. And I was like, whatever. I've done it like once or twice. You know what I mean? Like, I can't go to work. And that was the same way when I was in college. I was doing ROTC and I was in the military academy. Okay, before people go like, which one? I was at Virginia Military Institute. Like, I wasn't at West Point or anything like that. But what I'm trying to say is that, like, I would go play soccer or I had to go do something and I'd be like, I can't get hurt, or like this sergeant is going to be, you did what? Are you a fucking, and it was club, it wasn't NCAA, you know what I mean? So do you feel that way nowadays where you're like, I cannot get hurt, or like work or something? Or I mean, like CTE is actually like terrifying. So yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, definitely like getting hurt and everything. It's like, man, like, I don't want to break a foot, an ankle or something, and now I have to miss work because of it, because like we're grown up, like like it sucks like having to take off of work and everything because you only have so many vacation days and everything. So yeah, I can't imagine like playing something like that and like, oh, now I can't work and now all the bills can't get paid and everything like that. That would suck. So yeah, I mean, playing that tournament, I was a little bit afraid because I didn't want to get a concussion. I mean, wearing a headband, okay, it's going to help a lot of it's not 100% like protective and everything, like you can still get a concussion, but I felt a little bit better that I had that on. But yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah, it was on my mind a little bit. Maybe that's why I wasn't playing as well as I thought.
There was a bit more hesitation.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But going back to the original point where you asked the Uber prices, so I didn't have a hotel in the city. We were playing at Drexel and Temple, and so I was driving from New Jersey down into the city. Because all the hotels and everything were booked up in the city and everything. So I was like, okay, let me get a hotel in New Jersey that's closer to Subaru Park, because I got the hotel on a Friday. The Union were playing DC United on a Friday. So I was like, okay, this is great. I'm going to get back from Subaru Park to my hotel like in 15 minutes, where it takes me an hour to get home. I was like, this is going to be different. And I was like, okay, let me see, just for giggles, let me see how much an Uber is from New Jersey or close to Chester to the city. It was like $60 one way. I was like, what? Like, I
They
don't know.
got to do something, man.
Yeah,
They
I was
have to
like-
figure something out or try and get some type of public transportation, which I could go also for hours about the horrible public transportation in our country that needs to be renovated in terms of trains, public busing, or maybe just getting away from a car-centric nation. But I also had another question from, actually I have two questions.
Yeah, go
One
for it.
about the culture with the Philadelphia Union. How are the Sons of Ben? How are, the supporters groups and stuff like that? Since the success and you saying playing attractive football has like generated so many more fans, which is fucking awesome. I love to see the Philadelphia Union do well, like anything Philly do well. How have you seen anything change with like them in particular?
Yeah, I mean, like having this conversation is good and everything. Like, I don't mind you asking questions because I think, as
flipping
Union
it on you.
fans, as Union fans, we want people in the city asking questions and everything. Like, I know you're a soccer fan, you're not totally bought into MLS and everything, but I think as Union fans, we want to try to convince people. And I would say the supporting groups, Keystone State Ultras are a newer group. A lot of the original Sons of Ben members started this group. And then obviously you have the Sons of Ben. You're seeing a lot of young kids, which is good because people always say, the old generation is going to die off and it's going to be these young guys leading the torch. They're going to be the ones keeping the culture alive. And I give a lot of credit to just what the Sons of Ben do, but not only them. I mean, Keystone State Ultras, the newer supporters group, they had a chant in 2019. I want to say it was maybe 2020. I think it was 2019, where they got like the whole stadium involved. There was something so basic, like sha la 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 la, sha la la la, hey Philadelphia, you. And like typically, the only people who's chanting in the stadium are the supporters groups.
Right.
But to get the whole stadium to participate
That's
in something
special,
so
man.
basic, like you can tell it gave the players that extra energy. It's like, okay, we know the noise is always going to come from the river end, but now you have it coming around the whole stadium. And imagine what that does to the opposition. Like, that's got to be intimidating, especially for people that are maybe playing in MLS for the first time. They're like, oh, this doesn't compare to Europe and everything, but they're like, wow, this...
They brought it.
Yeah, exactly. These supporters in Philadelphia, man, this is an intimidating place to play. And you do hear, stories from opposition players like, I didn't expect the atmosphere to be like that in Chester. And then it helps, too, that when the players exit the tunnel and everything, they go right under the supporters' seats. And that's got to be intimidating. But, winning helps. And you see a lot of people come for the very first time. I mean, when the playoffs, we started going to the playoffs in 2019, won our first playoff game against New York Red Bulls. And now it's like a guarantee that we're going to win a playoff game ever since Ernst Tanner's been here. The atmosphere has been electric.
Yeah, is it
Every
kind of
single-
weird going from like if we somehow get in the playoffs or like mid-table to now like you're at championship or bust now? Is that weird?
That's what it is.
How
yeah,
weird
it
does
is.
that
Yeah,
feel?
it is weird. And I mean, just like sitting in the press box this whole season and everything, when the Union would concede, which wasn't often, like us sitting in the press box, we look at each other like, they're going to get one back. I mean, I remember against New York City in the playoffs this year. New York City scored first. 5 minutes later, I think the Union get a goal. And we're like, like nobody was afraid. Like, okay, the Union hardly concede at home, but they've been so dominant at home. And so I think not only as media members, but as fans, I feel like fans feel that way too, because even the final against LAFC, yes, LAFC scored the first goal, but nobody thought, okay, well, that's it for the Union. Let's all go home. Let's pack it in. No, the Union come out in the second half, score a goal, then LAFC scored towards the end of the game. And the fans didn't give up on the team in LA, in Chester. And the Union get a goal to tie the game up. And then they get what we thought was going to be the game-winning goal and everything. And, man, that place went crazy. I saw a lot of people there wearing Phillies gear, 76ers gears. Like, you can tell that they were fans of 4 for 4 and not 5 for 5. But to see them there at Chester watching the Philadelphia Union, it's like that's what it's all about, trying to grow these people into 5 for 5. And I think winning is going to continue to help. The atmosphere is continuing to grow. You're seeing people go to the stadium for the very first time, and you'd love to see it.
Yeah, man. It's just cool that finally that, Eagles fans are awesome. Sixers fans are awesome. Phillies fans are now awesome. They haven't been the past couple of years, but now that we went into the World Series and stuff like that, I'm not trying to rag on Phillies fans, but they're good. They're a good group. But when Phillies are doing good, they bring it. And then Flyers fans, I feel bad for them, but all these fan bases are so passionate, so hardcore, and it's finally good, and I know Philadelphia Union have been good with this, but to see it like kind of reaching like an apex at the moment, that's awesome. That's so cool. And I think Jimmy, who you just, had on the pod, how was that, by the way? Was that like super cool?
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, I tell people all the time, they're like, I've had plenty of opportunities to get Jim on the podcast.
So that was your first time?
Yeah, it was the first time on the podcast.
That's so cool.
Yeah, for sure. I'm always in the press conferences with him. I'm like, if there's a question I want to ask, I'll ask it. So it's like, I've never felt the need to have him on the podcast, but it's like, he's here at the convention. I'm here. Let's do it. And so,
he said he just ran over and he was like, "Hey, we doing this?"
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because like me and my friend Billy, who was co-hosting with me this week, we went to Jim Curtin's panel. After the panel, I went up to Jim Curtin and he's like, "Hey man, what's up?" Like, obviously recognized me. I was like, "Do you have like 10, 15 minutes to potentially come onto the podcast?" He's like, "Yeah, at 6 o'clock, I got to do something with the union. I think they had an exhibit in the exhibit hall." He's like, "Here's my number. Text me to remind me." I was like, whoa, like that's the kind of guy he is. He's so humble. He's so down to earth. And then I was like, man, it's close to 6 o'clock. I'm not going to send that text. And I think I got distracted by talking with a couple guys. And then Jim comes over. He's like, we doing this? I said, yeah, let's
you can
do
see
it.
him a mile away. What is he, like 6'2", 6'3"?
Yeah, he's so
big,
tall, yeah.
He's a big dude.
Yeah, I remember going in the press room, and I was like, yeah, I could tell, like, sitting in the river end, because I have season tickets as well. And I was like, you can tell he's tall, but then in person right next to him, I'm like, yeah, this guy.
Yeah, because the most part you see him on like the touchline where like your field of view is like how tall, like you're guessing at home. But when you see him in person or you see him sitting down in like the press, like or whatever, like I have no idea. How intimidating is it to like ask questions like after like a defeat? The big J here. Like after like a defeat or something, you don't want to like be too harshly critical where it could become personal or anything like that. Like how have you been able to deal with that and be able to like with other reporters there, obviously, who are all reporting to like probably the Inquirer or wherever it might be.
For sure.
How does it feel being in the room and being able to ask these questions?
Well, I mean, at home, in person, they'd never lost a game this season. So this was my first full season to go in person.
So how's it feel to be awesome?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, like, the vibes were high. And I remember there was, at the beginning of the season, we had drawn like 5 games or something like that, or 5 out of our last 7, something like that. And I asked the question, I was like, now the narrative is, can the union get over the hump? Like, it's starting to become an issue, in my opinion, and that's just my opinion. And
right,
he's like,
you're entitled to that. Yeah, go
exactly.
ahead.
And he was like, yeah, it's a fair point and everything. So I think, he respects the questions, and he knows, especially he talked on his panel where when he came into the union as a coach in 2014, he didn't know how to talk to the media. He didn't know how to handle that, but you've been in the job for so long, like, you get accustomed to that. And I think, as myself, like, yeah, I was intimidated at first, like with Zoom, his midweek press conferences. I was like, I'm never going to get over this unless I start asking questions. And so I think that's probably the same with Jim. Like, he's not going to get comfortable until he gets questions asked for him. So, yeah, I tell people all the time, it's like, you put in enough reps and everything, it's going to come natural to you. I mean, yeah, there will be moments where I'm a little bit scared, a little bit timid, or
I've been terrified this entire convention. This is like,
I know there's points where I'm talking way too fast and everything, but somehow Jim still understands what I'm saying. So shout out to Jim. But yeah, I think the more you do it, the easier it becomes. And I'm with you. Like, we've had Alexi Lawless, we've had JP Della Camera. I mean, big name people on the podcast at the convention, and I think
that's so badass. How was? Can I ask about Lawless?
Yeah, a lot of people give him crap and everything.
Deserved.
But no, I think he's a guy who just really wants to see the game grow in America. I think his Twitter persona wasn't what he showed in person with us.
No, I'm sure in person he is lovely. I saw him around here. He seemed very cordial. He took photos. He seems like an awesome guy. But go ahead, finish your point.
Yeah, I mean, so I have respect for him. I mean, some of his takes and everything's like, dude, what are you doing? But I think at the end of the day, he's just a guy who wants to see soccer thrive here in America. So I respect him for that. And anybody that wants America to do well, and that's why, like, I'm happy you're asking questions, wanting to know more about the union, because, we're not going to shove people away that want to get into the union. There's no bad time to get into the team. Of course, back in 2010, 2011, 2012 when they're losing, yeah, it's easy for people to stay away from the team. But now with winning, everybody wants to come see the hot team in town, and we'll take you. We really will, because I don't think people are snobby enough to say, yeah, we're as high as we can go. Like, they're welcome all fans in, because we wanted to continue to grow here in Philadelphia and America. And I tell people all the time, and it's so crazy. And you do a Premier League podcast, and I'm sure you have a ton of American listeners that have Premier League teams. But how many of these people honestly are supporting local soccer in the backyard? How many of them are trashing MLS? How many people can honestly say that they've been to an MLS game? How many people can say that they've watched more than one MLS game and not just YouTube highlights?
I feel like you're calling me out right now. I wanted to state for the record, I've gotten so much better. Me and Martin earlier in the pod, people can grow. I want anyone to learn from this pod. Yeah. I used to be a big trasher of MLS. I used to be a big trasher of American soccer and stuff like that, because I was given the most perfect meal, and it was European soccer.
Yeah.
And then I was like, why would I go back? Why would I go back to the McDonald's or Burger King or whatever it might be? No, I've come a long way, and I have now encouraged many of my listeners to support local. I've also become more of the support local guy, especially because I do a lot of work with unions now, which I'm very passionate about. I recently did a fundraiser for coal miners down in West Virginia. We sold shirts, and that was really cool. Just a quick plug. I'm very about like solidarity when it comes to the workplace. But I believe like for me, like I was a huge Sixers fan during Trust the Process.
Yeah.
And like when you brought up the 2010, 2011 Philadelphia Union, it reminded me so much of how Sixer fans fell off, and that, it's going to take time. It's going to rebuild. Sam Hinkie and the boys are going to figure this out. I think if you're trying to pick a union, be a union fan, it's the best time. This is the greatest time. We don't know if this is going to last or what's going to happen, but I think you know better than I do. But obviously, I want everyone to not only support, if you're in Philadelphia and it's like one of our listeners and you're not supporting the union, I don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I look, don't feel bad, because I was in your boat too. I got into soccer in 2006, watched the World Cup. Like, I watched, my parents took me to indoor soccer games, but I can't say that I was truly into soccer until the 2006 World Cup between England and Portugal. Knew nothing about European soccer, but the commentators kept talking about England, about Manchester United players playing for England, and that's how I became a fan of Manchester United in England. But then you talked about Brendan Aronson earlier, and it's like, okay, how can I not support a guy who came through the ranks with the Union on the national team? So, I tell my listeners now that, the USA is up top, England is down here for me, because I want to see those Union guys do well for the country. And
there's a lot of American talent, too,
There is, and it's so cool seeing players come out of your backyard. And so, I want to see the sport do well here in America, and I don't blame you for having that mindset, like, I watch European soccer, MLS soccer.
It was very elitist, and I'm trying to bring myself
I was
down.
there too, and I think a lot of people are, and for whatever reason, I decided to give it a go. I mean, I remember David Beckham came in 2007, and I was like, okay, I'm going to try to watch MLS, and I was like, this is terrible compared to European soccer. Took 10 years away from MLS, and when I came back, I was surprised to see, not only new teams in the league, but better players in the league, better quality. And I was like,
better management, better organization, better facilities, more money. I mean, I think the boom of the NWSL has been something that's really caught my eye. We had Devin Kerr on the pod recently. Shout out to Devin Kerr. He's one of the commentators for the NWSL, or USL. Sorry. For the USL, my bad. I'm still learning. Let everyone know I am still learning. And the USL had caught my mind mostly because like Milwaukee's getting a crazy stadium. I think it's going to be like 30,000 seats for the USL. That's absolutely nuts. I mean, how many
MLS teams? Not a lot. No. The
only one Union like 30,000 or 40,000?
No, the Union's only 18,500.
18,000?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know. So you have a USL team coming in here having 30,000. I mean, that's insane. Nashville, I think, just built a 30,000 seat Geodis Park. Toronto might be up near that number, but there's not a lot of MLS teams.
Have you been like watching like the growth of USL, like how it's like kind of skyrocketed? Because even I mostly follow
a little
Premier
bit.
League,
I mean, shout out to ESPN Plus having the rights to USL makes it easy to watch. I mean, if you wanted to watch U.S. Open Cup games, you got to have ESPN Plus. If you wanted to watch MLS, you got to have ESPN Plus. So yeah, I mean, you get a lot of good soccer with ESPN Plus, and now I don't know if you know this. Now MLS is going to Apple, and so now
Yes.
you have to subscribe to another.
I saw Taylor Twellman tweeting about it and stuff like that. What are your thoughts on this big buy by Apple?
I hate it.
Oh,
I hate it.
really?
Yeah. So
Why?
a lot of my listeners know that I've had a ton of MLS commentators on this podcast, and you were talking about your work with unions and everything. And yeah, it's sad to see people that I would consider friends that I've had on this podcast multiple times, like lose their jobs and everything. That MLS just kicked them to the curb, got rid of all local broadcasters. And now teams have the option to have a radio broadcast and not a radio broadcast. And if they want to have a radio broadcast, then their home commentators that they had on the TV, well, maybe they don't want to come back and just do radio, and maybe they got picked up by Apple. And so, yeah, I mean, getting rid of local broadcasters sucks, and that's why I hate this deal and everything. I'm like, I hate seeing people lose their jobs, and not only just the commentators, but the people behind the scenes, like producing for their local TV
The social
stations.
teams, everything.
Like, yeah, I feel bad for those people losing their jobs and everything, and I'm like, this is so idiotic by MLS. Like, what they're following, if we're being honest, they're following the same thing that the NFL is doing. I mean, it makes sense. Don Garber came from the NFL, the commissioner of MLS, and I'm not a fan of it. It's like you watch MLB, like maybe not everybody knows the commentary teams, but like they have local commentary teams, and then when there's a national game, then they use that national team's broadcast, like Fox, ESPN, whatever. I'm fine with that, but like I think there's still room in the game for local broadcasts, but not ESPN, MLS and Apple, I guess, feel otherwise. I mean, obviously it's cheaper. That's why. I mean, the owners have the final say. So if the owners didn't want to do this, then there would still be local broadcasts.
So it's just greed.
It is 100%. Yeah, 100%.
If we're going to boil it down, and now all these people are going to lose their jobs, probably have to move and change livelihoods, is because a couple people get a couple more million to add on to their millions.
Yeah, to the millions they already have. But
good.
When you,
Great.
Yeah, when you flip it and everything, you can watch MLS anywhere in the world. So it's like, no, it's not geo-blocked. I'm a fan of that. So I was tired of not being able to watch DC United games unless I watch it on TV because I was geo-blocked on the ESPN app. So, I mean, to watch MLS anywhere in the world, I think that's great. Nobody's ever done something like this, the Apple MLS deal. So I think if it gets off on the right foot, maybe we start seeing other sports following the same footsteps. You never know. So maybe MLS, which is crazy to say, is going to be a trend setter. So, I mean, there is positives, there are negatives with this deal. But yeah, seeing friends lose their job, yeah, not happy about that.
Never fun.
No.
Never fun to see that. Do you feel as though with like the growth of MLS, because I feel like I just like, maybe because the Phillies did well this year, I don't care about baseball that much. But like, I feel like MLS is just going to pass hockey and baseball.
Yeah, I think so too.
Like soon. Like it's not like we were joking about it years ago, like MLS, but like with the USL's expansion and just people getting more into the culture. Obviously, we just had the big boom with the World Cup and everyone losing their mind over what I thought to be a phenomenal World Cup. I thought I had a lot of fun and the right person won. Let's go Messi. But yeah, I think I see that happening in the next few years. Like maybe like 10 years. I mean, like baseball is like who's ever doing their social media and like marketing.
Yeah, they suck at marketing their players, right?
Hockey, like I have no idea who played in the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I mean,
Like
it's bad.
no idea. I don't care about either of those sports. I like the Flyers. Like I like going to games and stuff like that. And if you're a hockey guy, like I'm not gonna like yuck anybody's yum. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying like talk to your marketing and stuff like that, because I think for hockey's biggest issue is it's so expensive. Where like the beautiful game, you just need a ball. You know what I mean? So I mean they do get expensive. There is a whole
yeah. I mean, look, being at this conference, yeah, and there's been a couple panels I sat on where they've complained. I mean, you're paying thousands of dollars to play soccer here in America, and people in England are probably like,
well, who was it? Zlatan complained about that years ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, who had? Look at me bringing out MLS knowledge like that. Yeah,
I was sitting in a Frankfurt panel here, and one of the scouts or whatever was like, yeah, it's a couple $100, and everybody in the room was like, no, it's a couple $1,000,
right?
And so he was even blown away. Like he thought the whole idea of a couple $100 was expensive, but then when they said thousands, like you got taken back by that. And Yeah, I mean, that's not going to help the game grow here in America. So, I mean, our pay-to-play system has to change a little bit. But, yeah, I do think MLS is going to get over MLB and NHL here. And
They're
yeah,
never
10
going to
years
pass.
isn't crazy. Football, never.
Football and basketball,
yeah,
no.
never.
They just do such a good job. And I think the problem with like hockey and baseball is that they don't have like talisman like stars as they used to, like where they had like the Sosas and they had the Barry Bonds and like all these Jeters, A-Rod, and like now it's like they have like one icon, which is like Judge. And shout out to my boy from Millville, Mike Trout, from my home city in South Jersey. He, not exactly the most charismatic guy. And then hockey, like, I don't know if a single hockey star, maybe. I think I still know Ovechkin, and he's like 40 years old. Yeah. And he still plays for the Caps or whatever. So, again, I think MLS does a good job of have done a really good job in the most recent years of marketing themselves, kind of gotten past that like retirement league stigma, which I think that was a big thing for me for years. I was like, this is where Pirlo goes to die. This is where
Frank Lampard, Steven Gerrard,
they all go to New York City FC and then they go to die. Wayne Rooney, who actually had a pretty good stint, I thought, at DC United. I still remember that play where he took the ball up the entire field, and that was really sick.
Passed it to Luciano Acosta against Orlando City, and they beat Orlando City. Crazy game.
Was sick.
That's a good thing about MLS. Like you know you're always gonna get craziness. So I know like it's not as top quality as the Premier League, but the one thing you're always going to get crazy soccer in MLS matches. Before we let you go, Kevin, like you said, you cover the Premier League and everything. Who are some of the big guests, people that you're most proud of that you've had on your podcast? You've had the Cooligans a couple times. You've had Sam's Army a couple times.
Yeah.
You said Devin Kerr, who's a phenomenal commentator with the USL. I mean, who are some interviews that stick out to you?
Well, I've done a bunch of really cool interviews here at the United Soccer Coaches Convention. I had Dan Abrams, I didn't really know much about him, and now everyone is really mad at me that I didn't know who he was. And he's like a world-renowned like psychologist and has been hired by a bunch of Premier League teams. Had the most fascinating conversation with him. And I was a psychology major in college, humble brag. And I was able to bring up some stuff I remember from Psych 101 to talk to him about. And I think he was thrown off by how relaxed. Again, like our show is very relaxed. We drink and kind of shoot the shit. We got to interview the head of the Southwest Premier League here at the convention, which was really cool to talk to the director and VP of that, and about the men's amateur leagues and stuff like that I've been trying to get more involved with and understand. I've had Katie Goodman, who is a phenomenal guest. I hope you can get her on the show. She does a lot with the United Women's Soccer League, which is really, really cool. She also works for like San Antonio Spurs or ESPN. She does like color commentary for like Texas college sport. She does like 10 different jobs. She is really cool. But yeah, Cooligans are awesome. Those guys are hilarious. Sam's Army. I mean, those are the heavy hitters, and they're just like some of the nicest people in the industry who will respond to you and make time for you. And that's what I think is so cool about like the podcasting soccer community. Everyone has been so nice and accepting and just really open, especially you. And thank you again for having me on the show. Yeah. And I also want to shout out our Discord, all our friends that I've been able to make through this Instagram and Discord community, who they appear on the show all the time and help bail me out when I can't get a guest, and we'll do like a panel or a big call or whatever. So I've been very fortunate to make some of my best friends by doing this show, and it's really, really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'll go back to like how we got connected, where I think it was Dave Knittel from the Bros Talking Soccer podcast that maybe introduced us to something. I mean, Dave's like one of the first people that I remember podcasting and everything. He's based out of Philadelphia and everything, huge Union fan. And then, like you said, I mean, there was 2 Foot Talk, and then obviously you guys, Will Vivard. And I'm like, okay, these guys all want what's best. They love soccer. And so maybe not everybody's into MLS and everything, but, I can respect people that are into soccer here in America. And now it's just getting these people that like soccer into local soccer here in America. It's cool. Still support Premier League teams or whoever you want to support in Europe or South America. But it's like, you got soccer in your backyard, support that. And so I think that's maybe the next step of growing the game here in America, is like, okay, we know soccer. We saw what it did at the World Cup. Like the numbers that Fox put out, I mean, it was insane. Millions of people watching games. And it's like, okay, we know people like soccer here in America. Now, how do we get them to support local soccer? And so I think that's going to be the next stepping stone MLS, USL, USL2 needs to figure out, is how can we get people to support local soccer? And once we do that, like you said, NHL, MLB, it's going to be way below soccer here in America.
Absolutely. And I think you're exactly right that all of us need to do a better job of supporting our local clubs, getting out, promoting, marking them, and that'll be the next step. And again, like if you like the Brazilian Soccer League, you like Premier League, you like the Dutch League, you like MLS, like I'm not here to yuck anyone's yum, as I said before. Just if you enjoy it, man. Don't try and like think too hard about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Kevin, where can people find you on social medias?
You can follow us on Instagram at LADS Podcast, Twitter at LADS_podcast. I guess I couldn't get that name on Twitter, whatever. And then you can listen to us on Apple, Spotify, anywhere, Loud Americans Discussing Soccer, anywhere you listen to podcasts, we're there. So, and if you want to join our Discord, it's growing about over 100 members now, and it's all really cool, guys. We talk about movies, we talk about soccer, we talk about our lives. It's a very well-knit community. So, Todd, thank you so much for having me on, man. This was an absolute honor.
Yeah, it was. I mean, to reconnect and everything. I think when I saw you guys were on the list of people that were going to be at Podcast Ferro, I was like, reunion? Like, yeah, it's great to see that you guys were invited here to Podcast Ferro and everything. I mean, it's great making new friends, seeing old friends at the convention. I mean, it's been phenomenal and just learning so much and seeing all these other podcasters here that are doing their part, helping grow the game. And that's all I think we can ask for as fans of the beautiful game. But if people aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow @FreeKickPod, wherever you get the podcast, The Free Kick. Check out the website, thefreekick.net. And like I said, this is the last day of the convention. We'll probably have a couple more interviews coming out. But Kevin, thanks again so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.